Hello, 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 everyone, and happy Friday. And a happy Friday it is because it's time for the Security Token Show with your usual hosts back at it again. We've got Kyle Sonlin back on the show. I'm your other host, of course, Herwig Konings. And man, am I excited about this week's set of news happening in the RWA space, too. So, a good note to come back in on, Kyle. Man, great to see you. Welcome back, dude.
Herwig, my brother, really appreciate you. It's so good to be back on the show. I've desperately missed being here. Shout out to the audience for bearing with me. I did leave intending to only be gone for 2 weeks. And it's now been 8 weeks on the road here in Asia. I've done a full campaign across Malaysia Blockchain Week and CoinFest in Indonesia, and then Singapore, and we did Korea Blockchain Week, and now I'm here for Token 2049. So I kind of just got caught in the road show, and once you're out here, you may as well just keep going.
Yeah, it's no short trip from our usual home here in Miami. And we have certainly missed you, but man, wow, what a trip across the Far East, across APAC. Indeed, I can't wait. We are going to give you a break for Token 2049 next week. So you can get the full insights from you. Yeah, that's going to be crazy.
After that, let's hope that that's my final stop. And there's no guarantees at this point, but I'm feeling pretty good that in 2 weeks you'll see me in the normal setup.
Well, it's morning time of production here in Miami. I know it's evening time where you're at over there. Where are you right now officially?
I am in Singapore now.
Singapore.
So it is 12 hours from EST.
Well, I'm sure there's a ton of events already, ahead of Big Token 2049. So, I'm excited to get all of the RWA insights from you when you get back.
Let's make something clear, Herwig. There's nowhere I'd rather be than filming the show.
Which is where you'll be afterwards, even still, if you're stuck there out there doing good business. So, I can't keep doing this on my own, Kyle. We've all missed you. We unfortunately don't have Nico back this week. But we do have some market movements, so let's say we get into it.
Let's do it.
No guests this week for this segment, but wow, what a week we can kick off here with. All right, so big news from ParaFi Capital, which is a reputable and very sizable $1 billion plus crypto asset manager who also happens to be an investor in Securitize's latest round. And they announced that they are not just investing, but using the technology, and they're doing it for a portion of their latest fund. And by the way, folks, this release specifically noted that Securitize has around 950 million in assets tokenized under Securitize. That's nearly $1 billion, folks. That's just a sign of how big this market is. There are now individual players like Securitize accounting for $1 billion essentially in assets or more, and it's going to keep happening. More and more players will also achieve that status. You love to see this growth. I'm telling you, the first tokenized trillion, it's a lot closer than you think. I'm not crazy on this, I swear. But Securitize is also the platform behind the news this week from a $10 million Series A from a startup in dairy. So that's right, from treasury funds to crypto funds to dairy tech, Securitize is powering tokenizations of all kinds. This one is for a company called Earth First Blood Ventures, which is focused on alternative dairy and synthetic biology. So the company already did raise $3 million in the past and looks to disrupt the dairy industry with this new tech, and it's now open to accredited investors. And BUIDL by BlackRock, which is of course also powered by Securitize, is coming to Southeast Asia thanks to Velo Labs, which is tokenizing a fund backed by the BUIDL product, similar to Ondo's OUSG, and tokenizing that fund on Securitize itself. So before I comment any further, first I got to say this market movement segment is starting to feel a whole lot like a Securitize update because they are on fire this week. And I'm not just saying that because Carlos Domingo, the CEO of Securitize, was also quoted alongside me on CoinDesk's Crypto for Advisors this week. If you want to go read what we said there later. But yep, it's the latest update is an example of the BUIDL ecosystem here continuing to grow and grow, and it's only just getting started. Now, turning away from Securitize here, we've got big news from Centrifuge and their tokenized treasury product with Anemoy. And Centrifuge and Anemoy have made an institutional move here by selecting an over $300 billion British asset manager, Janus Henderson, to manage the Anemoy LTF product itself, putting it up there with the likes of other major asset managers in terms of like professional managed funds here. So this can be a big differentiator and potentially even necessary in order to scale and compete in this sector. So it's a smart move by Centrifuge, I think. And per Janus's statements in the release, the fund will be pursuing a similar strategy, I think, to what BUIDL is doing, pursuing foundations, DAOs, and other DeFi organizations that could use the Anemoy product in treasury management and other applications. Now, let's see where this takes the fund, which currently sits around 11 million in size. Now, an article in the Financial Times also revealed that Anemoy is planning a second on-chain fund, investing in music-based intellectual property. So I'm super excited to learn more about that. Absolutely loving all of the news here from this segment here. Now, next we saw Libre. They're continuing their multi-chain expansion strategy, now announcing support for Aptos. So this is after recently announcing Near and launching on Solana just in July. So they continue to do it for all three of their products for funds with Brevin Howard, BlackRock, and Hamilton Lane. And they follow the same footsteps here as Franklin Templeton, Ondo, and many other RWA projects that are taking advantage of the capabilities of multi-chain asset management here, folks. There's some huge benefits to it. Moving on, Plume also made some headlines launching a mineral vault, tokenizing specifically gold, silver, coal, and primarily crude oil and natural gas in the USA. So the CEO specifically cites demand for RWA yield, and I believe it. So it's great to see more DeFi growth in RWAs. Finally, the last issuance this week was 50 million euro worth of commercial paper by the government of Saxony-Anhalt in Germany. They used the Deutsche Börse's D7 DLT platform by Clearstream to do it. Now, NatWest acted as a dealer for the commercial paper with Deca Bank Deutsche as the investor. Now, once again, this was part of the European Central Bank's trials around tokenization, which means we're seeing the results of a lot of successful implementations that we've now covered on the show in the last few weeks. So it shows promising signs for the future. And that's all the new offerings, but it's worth mentioning that we saw a ton of venture investment activity itself. Huma Finance raised $38 million for their trade finance-focused RWA platform in order to expand to Solana and Stellar's Soraban. And that deal was broken up into actually $10 million in equity into the firm and then $28 million in RWA purchases on the Huma platform itself. And Tether revealed a $100 million investment into an agriculture tokenization company called Adecoagro, which is in Latin America. This billion-dollar firm, based on this 10% ownership stake acquisition here, is listed on the NYSE and showing you the size of this agriculture firm, which actually was identified by reporters from the filings that were necessary related to the transaction. So what else could they be up to, I wonder here? Tether making moves. It was also revealed this week that Binance has invested in and owns a big stake in OpenEden, a fast-growing asset manager that recently saw Ripple invest in its treasuries products as well. So this, fun fact, OpenEden is the largest non-US issuer of this asset class, treasuries. So having the largest international exchange as an investor will also surely help them. Finally, to end the segment, SDAX, a leading Singaporean exchange for RWAs, announced $50 million in funding in what they call Series B2 round. This round was led by Muscat Precious Metals Refining Company out of Oman and suggests that, we'll maybe see some offerings related to this, but the round is said to be used to grow the firm's operations and expand its wealth management and other services. And that's it for the market movements. Well, let's take a break and head into an interview with Jason and RWA YouTuber Flip, breaking down the STO Summit he co-hosted in Korea from a couple of weeks ago.
Well, welcome everyone to a Security Token Show interview. This time we're breaking down the STO Summit in Korea. We're joined by Flip. Flip, how are you today?
Hi, hello, as Security Token Show viewers and Jason. I'm Flip. The name is nickname. Flip means the security token flipping stock. So I am designated Flip. Actually, my name is Seongmin Hong in Korean name. Thank you so much, Jason, for inviting me here today. I'm YouTuber specialized in security token, a member of the organizing committee and official partner of the STO Summit, and the Korean community advisor for INX. I appreciate your understanding as I'm not fully fluently in English.
No worries at all. We will take it a step at a time here, and thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us about the companies and the speakers that the STO
Mhm.
Summit represented?
Okay. To clarify, the official name of our event is not STO Summit Korea, but STO Summit. The event featured key government figures such as the chairman of the Korean Financial Investment Association and the chairman of the Korean Exchange and the representative from the Ministry of Economy and Finance. We also had a participant from Seoul Metro and the Korean largest asset management firm, Aegis and Maston, and security company like Shinan Investment Corp and Mira Asset and IBK Investment and Securitize and Daishin Securitize, Hanwha Asset Management, Coscom, as well as Hanyang University. From the startup sector, we had many security token companies, and from overseas, participants included INX, InvestorX, IX Swap, Pragmatic, Jansry, Real to Market, Fraxter, Lead Swat, CBRE, Digital Asset, Avalanche, Fact Finance, Bloomberg, Fireblocks, Innova Securitize, Questry, Upside, Untangled Finance, and me, Flip. I was honored to have Kyle Sonlin, co-founder of STM, as one of our speaker, and I must say he a really great guy. And we were also privil- privileged to have Ryan, the CEO of Foxum, who was the excellent guest as well.
Fantastic. Great lineup of speakers. Thank you so much. We're familiar with a lot of them. How many people did you host, and what were some of the most popular of panels?
Okay. The STO Summit hosted around 150 listed attendees. In addition, the event contents will soon be made publicly available through the BUIDL media platform by YouTube channel. For context, in 2023, the total number of the video views for the entire summit reached 6,600. As for the most popular panel, it was the tokenization and blockchain, new tool of real estate liquidation. Real estate has traditionally been highly attractive asset class in Korea. During the regulatory sandbox period, real estate related companies were the most actively listed. Just like Gangnam became famous due to its real estate appeal, similar to Manhattan in New York, and Beverly Hills in LA.
Yep.
This session featured Korean largest real estate asset management company, Aegis, the best, and the Master, alongside the INX, Red Swan, and Singapore Fractor. This generated a meaningful discussion. Attendees were eager to learn how tokenized assets are being adopted worldwide, and they found this discussion very satisfying.
Very, very cool. Okay, so that's interesting. And so diving a little deeper into that, can you share any takeaways from the conference, and also give us a general idea of how are digital assets perceived in Korea specifically compared to other parts of the world?
The main focus I had as the planner and the organizer committee member of the conference was communication. On the smaller scale, it was about facilitating understanding and communication between the security token industry and the government. For broadly, it was about raising awareness among Korean about advanced countries, institutions, and products that are actively preparing for regulation abroad, while also helping international company understanding how uh, diligently the Korean market is preparing and its potential to become a key region. I hope everyone felt that we are learning and growing together. As I mentioned in my presentation regarding the perception of digital asset in Korea, we can divide the landscape into before and after the security token guideline was were announced in early 2023. Before the guideline, many viewed it, it as similar to crypto, simply because it existed on the blockchain. However, since the security token guideline were issued the beginning of 2023, the perception has shifted. It seems this as a land of opportunity. In fact, on September 4th, key lawmakers from both parties gathered to announce that there will soon propose legislation. Since the security token guideline has already been finalized, we expect the law be enacted by end of this year or at the latest the first half of next year. When that happens, Korea will become one of the few countries with the security token legislation, and we are excited about this potential.
Fantastic. No, thank you for that overview. I think it's really interesting that Asia is really coming up in tokenization. Great to see legislation coming along as well. So among all the people in Asia focusing on tokenization, why are you, Flip, and eDaily the most qualified to host a conference such as the STO Summit?
eDaily is the leading economic media outlet in Korea with a significant presence and strong network with the government and the institutions. Among the media, it showed a particularly high level of interest in security token. I started studying this area about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and now I have to deep understanding, attending meeting with the financial institution, the government, and other organization to help them better understanding to topic. Currently, I am one of the few and the largest YouTuber specializing in security token in Korea, actively leading the promotion of a security token in the country. Through my effort, we are attracted numerous international speakers, assisted their actual entry into the Korean market. And even though this is only the second event, we are already seeing the successful cases. Our event is currently the largest RWA event in Korea, and we plan to expand it further. I am confident in my ability to connect both sides to achieve what they want. As Korean security token legislation become more visible, if you are looking for the business opportunity, feel free to reach out me. And please join us at the next event.
Sounds great. No, it sounds like, with your audiences plus, how much you guys covered this space in Asia, specifically in Korea, I think it makes sense why you guys are putting this together. So with that in mind, what can we expect for next year for STO Summit in 2025?
As I mentioned before, both ruling and opposition party lawmakers will soon come together to push forward the security token legislation that was hard last year. If all goes well, by the end of this year or the early next year at the latest, Korea will become a country with proper regulation governing security token. This growing interest was evident when only security token related stock surged, while all other Korean stocks were plummeting, indicating the attention of a retail investor. Even in the financial sector, which had previously been disbanded, we are seeing organizations regrouping, reconnecting, and reinvesting. By the time we hold the next year event, we are likely to see a very favorable and proactive government and finance sector. I'm confident that business opportunity will only increase throughout partnership with STM or STS. Tokenized this and STO Summit will work together to become one of the world leading security token field event.
Fantastic. We're really excited to work with you, Flip, and to collaborate on really bringing eyeballs to our conferences and our events and whatnot. So thank you for coming on and sharing the insights from this past conference. Appreciate it, Flip.
Good to see Flip. Awesome conference that they were able to host, them and eDaily. And actually, Herwig, it was cool because there were some familiar faces, a lot of friends of the show and people that have been in the industry for quite some time. But also, it was hosted at the Korea Stock Exchange in Seoul. Cool. So we actually got to sit down with regulators and one-on-one discuss how tokenization is going to impact their business model, both from a secondary market perspective, as well as how to leverage stablecoins and other monetary instruments to actually more efficiently process what's going on within the bank and how to look forward into the future on a lot of these things. So I think it was a fun mix of institutional players, a lot of the OGs in the space, as well as some fresh eyes that were excited to get involved. And it was an honor to be there. And thanks to Flip for allowing me to speak at the event.
Well, hearing from Flip and Jason's conversation there, and now from you personally, that's a big attestation. That sounds like it was an exciting time, a big win of a conference. Definitely want to be at the next one for sure now. Very glad to hear, this is happening all around the world. And that's the theme, of course, we're going to get into with our industry update we have here on the Token Debrief. Lots of big, new announcements, Kyle. But there was a big one we have to discuss regarding special purpose broker dealer licenses, SPBDs. This was kind of made famous first, not so famous when it was first introduced because it's a license you have to get. It's a brand new license, basically, introduced, I think, around 2020 by the SEC, and FINRA has to give it to you as a broker. And it essentially, the easy way to sum it up is that it allows the broker to self-custody or custody on your behalf, I should say, your securities, your digital asset securities specifically. So that's a big deal. If you're used to using many of these platforms, you're used to potential self-custody services or a centralized solution that doesn't quite use your token because it can't be held in custody. So this SPBD license can be pretty cool. In fact, Prometheum was the first company, the first broker to get it. They made a lot of waves.
That broke the internet.
They broke the internet, but not because they got that license specifically. I think that's what made them famous, having that license awarded to them. But I think what the internet or crypto specifically was upset with was the fact that they label Ethereum, and their viewpoint is Ethereum is a security, and many other cryptos are. And a result of it being a security, they now have the right licenses with the right custody capabilities to really have a full stack crypto asset platform for you. So it's an interesting value proposition, but of course not one that resonates with everybody else in the crypto community because nobody wants Ethereum and many other tokens to be a security in the first place. So definitely not a great way to bring a lot of attention to your brand per se. That's but right. Now there is a new company that also has one, Kyle. It's an RWA firm. I'm sure people are excited if they don't know who it is. Kyle, tell them.
It's T0.
Oh my God, it's T0.
OG. They've been in the space. Of course, who else, right? These guys have been in the space for so long. They've always taken a regulatory approach. They got the investment from the Intercontinental Exchange. They're working with the New York Stock Exchange to figure out how to build these solutions. Of course, it was them that figured out how to get the special purpose broker-dealer. I'm sure that this was years of effort in order to make this happen. And it's an interesting one because, especially in the US, there does seem to be a lot of licenses that have relatively unclear impacts on what it actually means down the line for the average retail customer. I think that what this does do, though, is it does give them a lot of flexibility with respect to what assets they can hold, what assets they can settle. And I certainly do think it allows them to maybe blend their whole ecosystem together a bit more efficiently than if they were to not have this license. But as you said, Herwig, this is a rare one. There's only 2 of them that have come to market. It'll be interesting to see, though, if now we see a little bit of those floodgates happening. Now that the precedent has been set, maybe others can follow in the footsteps and really drive the industry forward.
No, I agree. And we know Prometheum is also going to get into RWAs and supporting other tokens. So, they're all going to form together. We know RWAs are the mega trend at the end of the day. But, T0, I'm excited to see the rollout, let's say, of the features attached to this license, to see how it impacts that user experience, to your point, Kyle. Very excited. Definitely a big deal. We know Securitize and other platforms have also openly said they're pursuing the same license for good reason, right? To be able to take advantage of this brand new capabilities. No, it's not perfect. It's again, one of these newer licenses thinking about this. So very exciting stuff. Moving on, Kyle, we actually saw Northern Trust make a big announcement that they have powered a couple of carbon credit transactions. So their Northern Trust carbon ecosystem platform leverages the blockchain in order to, of course, power this, what I think is going to be another great RWA asset class, if you will, carbon credits. We've had a lot of experience and seen a lot of different projects that have gotten into the tokenization of carbon credit space. But of course, Northern Trust is a massive asset manager, one of the biggest in the world. So it's a really big deal that they now have a carbon ecosystem, and they now have a blockchain-based platform for tokenized carbon credits, and 2 projects already used it to issue, essentially their carbon credits and sell them to institutions. And that's what's a big deal in this space, I think, Kyle, is there's a lot of concerns around legitimacy in carbon credits, and there's a lot of concerns around registration, and there's certain registrars and other things like that. Well, if Northern Trust is doing it, a lot of those concerns, of course, they go away. So that's a very powerful advantage for, I think, this individual platform. And I'm excited to see what kind of usage and growth it gets. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I think you make a good point, especially with carbon credits, just due to the fact that they have a tumultuous PR reputation with respect to some of it's great. I think that anybody that's concerned about impact on the environment would recognize there's a lot of value in incentivizing the behavior we want to see. But to your point, there does seem to be relatively lax standards with respect to making sure that these things are fungible with each other, despite the fact that maybe the underlying is not quite that much. So having a platform and a custodian that's been trusted, they're, as to your point already, that's a multi-trillion-dollar asset manager. These guys are huge. And I actually had a chance to speak with someone on their digital assets team recently, and they talk quite a bit about how they build everything in-house, and they don't do that much that connects into the broader ecosystem. They really are focused on internal development and making sure that things are stable and trusted and secure. So I can't really think of a team that would do that kind of appropriation of this asset class more efficiently, or at least effectively, than Northern Trust. And it looks like their platform, which they're calling the Northern Trust Matrix Zenith, which is, it's a choice, but they do use the Hyperledger Bisu blockchain. So they're working with the more institutional enterprise chain there. But I do know that they're trialing other blockchain solutions as well for some of their other projects. Whether or not it's related to the carbon credit one, I cannot confirm. But yeah, really, this is a cool one. This is about as institutional as it gets.
No, I think this is great news, again, to see more categories and use cases around RWA. So we'll be tracking the growth of this. But another very big one, I think, Kyle, that we definitely need to discuss here is Swift. Now, we're not talking about Taylor Swift. We're talking about the Swift that powers international transactions, right? It's one of the most popular use cases for cross-border transactions, and they have been exploring tokenization for quite some time now, and they've now finally announced a platform that they want to do, essentially to do Swift for, tokenized asset transfers. So the way that I look at it is going to be a very big deal. They use all kinds of fancy words, of course, for, their delivery systems and such, but ultimately imagine different markets around the world being able to plug into each other. And now we can transact securities globally the same way that we can send, fiat transactions globally through Swift. That's what I see, it's coming together here. And this requires a unified ledger that, of course, Swift would be powering to enable such trading activity and such activity with tokenized assets and securities. So, Kyle, what's your feedback on this one? You big pro on the Swift initiative here?
I think it's needed for sure. It'll certainly be interesting to see how Swift actually makes this happen. My gut would say that they're certainly going to take everything off chain and then probably bring it into their existing infrastructure and then maybe re-bring it onto chain at the endpoint, which seems like it's probably the easiest way to do this. I certainly have been spending a lot of my time recently focused on stablecoin and CBDC interoperability. And I can tell you firsthand, it does require a significant blockchain upgrade. One that requires running multiple virtual machines on one underlying blockchain and then having multiple validator networks across different consensus mechanisms to actually validate the user identity. So we'll see if some of those things are in Swift's wheelhouse with respect to the tokenization components, because as we know, the tokenization piece really, you see the most benefit when the entire life cycle from origination to finality is tokenized. And so if you remove it from the blockchain, you do lose a significant portion of the benefits because you then lose the provenance. And so, and create those bottlenecks that kind of already existed. So it'll be very interesting to see how they roll this out. Is it a layer 2? Is it their own blockchain? Is it a test net across different chains? I'm interested to see what that looks like, but I certainly think it's much needed in the industry. And I don't think that startups and new innovators are going to be able to build the infrastructure without the support of the existing financial institutions. So I think it's a very good thing that they're working towards this, but I do think they recognize it's a pretty big thing to chew on. So I wouldn't be surprised if it takes them a period of time to figure it out.
Yeah, well, you make a great point, I think, regarding the fact that they have the Swift name behind them, and that's going to bring a lot of trust to what they do. They're already, to your point, going to be working with CBDCs on the settlement part, for the payments, for example, on the transactions, as well as for security settlements. So, I think they're definitely going to bring a big swath of, securities from big asset managers and many other capital markets players as soon as they actually, get this thing, to your kind of point, properly up and running and functioning and trusted by different markets. But it's absolutely the future.
Like, they also could be really like when they say interoperability, perhaps the piece that they're focused on too is maybe not blockchain interoperability. It may actually be TradFi to tokenized interoperability, aka on and off ramps, right? Perhaps they're the ones that are kind of building that communication layer between the traditional banking deposit system and the CBDC solutions and things like that, which is also going to need a lot of infrastructure to create. Because if you launch a CBDC, you still have dollars, right? You still have existing non-tokenized fiat that exists. So you're going to need somebody in the middle that makes sure that those things are are able to on and off ramp efficiently. And that's where Swift certainly, I think, will play a big part.
Exactly. Infrastructure tools, delivery versus payment, payment versus payment, multiple ledgers, right, that they're powering this stuff on. It's going to be a multi-ledger infrastructure. We all know that's going to be a multi-chain world plugging into these different things. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how that rolls out. Absolutely, in my opinion, love to see it in terms of upgrading capital markets infrastructure. I think they're going to be a big way in helping bring some credibility to all of this as we kind of rely on large asset managers and big banks to validate the technology right now individually, but Swift going after this is a big deal. Next, we saw some news out of a Dubai player called Rexus. Actually, they are now launching a launch pad, and they're launching a whole tokenization ecosystem, and they've announced their pre-sale for the RXS token. And, of course, they see the same thing. The future is tokenized, and they plan to offer a host of different services aimed at tokenizing real estate and finance and other tools for DeFi, again, trying to create this kind of ecosystem. So, they're not obviously the first. They're the first of many that we've seen doing something similar. Kyle, any thoughts on Rexus?
They're tackling a big problem. I think the main focus for Rexus needs to be buy side. Everybody's selling something right now. So the more that we can bring in people that actually want to purchase something, even if it's finding just a particular mandate, would be incredibly useful. And so I'm sure that they're working on a lot of amazing projects right now. But the more that we can really try to consolidate the buy side demand and then provide that across the ecosystem with respect to the different products, and then allow the best products and the most attractive ones to be sold out, I think is the key here. So for Rexus, that's really going to be their challenge, and their goal, I'm sure, is to potentially use a token to build their treasury so that they can then kind of jumpstart their own kind of micro ecosystem through their token treasury, similar to what we've seen from so many companies across the board. So I think that's probably the game plan for them.
Based on the tokenomics that they published, that seems to be the case. I think they allocated like 40% of the supply or something like that towards the sale. So they're obviously trying to raise quite a bit of capital. But of course, I think we're going to keep seeing this. And I think we're going to keep seeing it probably work, especially in different ecosystems, different approaches with technology, different asset classes. This is the way, obviously not so much in the US, but I'm interested to see how this one plays out, tapping into that sort of crypto retail angle, which is not what Antir is doing out of England. They are another player, if you will, that has come into the space, but they are offering it in a different way through custom tokenization platform services. So, if you're looking to build things yourself in-house and you need some pro expertise in developers, that's what they're trying to place themselves as opposed to be their own platform that you come and leverage and service yourself on as an issuer. So very interesting, Kyle. We're also going to see not just these retail crypto ecosystems, but also players like Antir offering and powering custom solutions by many, many more platforms. There will be thousands, if not tens of thousands of different blockchains and service providers and solutions for, of course, the entire global, markets and economy and assets. So that's just the reality we're going to be dealing with until there's a shakeout over time. But it is so easy to get started in this space. That's why you're going to keep seeing announcements like this one, Kyle, about integrations. Right. Paxos, they are now expanding to Arbitrum for their stablecoin issuance and tokenization platform. Okay, so they're actually also getting into the game of tokenizing real assets, not just custody, not just issuing stable coins and powering technology there, but they are going to offer their own full-on services as well. So, of course, now you get to go directly to Paxos as opposed to kind of using a custom or going to a different chain, like, for example, Rexus. Now you get to go to Paxos with their support of Arbitrum and many other chains that Paxos obviously also works with. We know they support also the PayPal token, and that's on Solana. But Kyle, any notes on this Paxos expansion to Arbitrum?
I think it makes sense. This kind of battle for interoperability is so important. it is complicated when you put the burden of interoperability on the issuer. I think that this is definitely something that that works for now, but over the long term is going to be difficult to have the issuer individually building integrations with every different layer 1 and layer 2. We've certainly seen Ondo, for example, crushing it at this, but I think that there's going to be a lot of companies that don't necessarily want to go through all of those hoops on both the supply side and the buy side. So so that will be, I think, where Paxos is going to try to add value, is by they can build these integrations and then kind of act as that maybe centralized on-ramp into this blockchain ecosystem, or vice versa. Perhaps they can be that kind of centralized solution so that Arbitrum users that are staking or using Arbitrum for all types of lending and DeFi protocols can then still get access through to the Paxos ecosystem. Makes sense as a partnership, and their goal to drive liquidity, I think, is a sound one, and we'll see how it goes for them.
Yeah, totally. We've got a lot of tokenization solutions now that we just discussed, and many more in the market, including some updates here from StegX, which has been on what I can kind of call a partnership spree, if you will. Just how much they've been in the news lately. This time they've done a partnership with MIO3, which is out of El Salvador, and they actually are sort of a bridge to Latin America assets, and sort of working with StegX, of course, on tokenizing and making that bridge between StegX, which for those of you who don't know is out of Europe, into now Latin America, which is actually, Kyle, I think great to see. We're starting to see a lot more activity and focus in terms of RWAs regarding Latin America, where there's obviously a ton of opportunity in itself. So any thoughts or notions on this partnership and or just RWAs in LATAM?
Let's definitely hope that the El Salvador volcano bonds come out soon. I did have a chance to speak with Samson Mao at the Korea conference sponsored by Flip and eDaily at the Security Token event.
Nice.
And Samson was excited and motivated for the launch of that product. And I think that he feels pretty good that is still coming. The momentum is there. Obviously, anything dealing with a government does require a significant lift in order to make that happen, but that is still on track. And so provided that they can continue the momentum in tokenizing debt and bringing in the Bitcoin ecosystem, I do think that will probably flow through into some of these other companies. So it does make sense for MIO3 to be involved in the industry and focus on tokenization as a use case in the El Salvadorian market.
I completely agree. And I, too, am excited for those volcano bonds. I think they're a fascinating offering, and I hope that they launch soon and have a lot of success personally.
You and me both.
Of course, everything we do on the show is just an opinion, just, our research, not advice, definitely not investment advice or recommendations. No. We got one last piece of news to end this segment here. Kyle, Particula has partnered up with Assetera. So in this new, which Particula and Assetera, of course, are also both out of Europe. But Assetera operates under an Austrian Financial Market Authority license for, of course, trading digital securities. And they actually partnered up with, I believe, StegX most recently, too. So a lot of the same names in this segment here. But this collaboration aims to empower both firms to basically have a heightened investor intelligence, to learn more about the financial instruments by Particula, of course, on Assetera. That's a really big role that Particula plays. We've had them on the show and we've done some webinars with them. We have a great partnership with them. They are really providing great intelligence for investors on all kinds of different RWA products out there. So a very smart decision, I think, by Assetera to partner up with them and actually take advantage of this to, bring, again, more attention and transparency and risk assessments and ratings and things like that to the products on Assetera, Kyle. So any insights on this last piece of news you want to share?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Assetera. When I left for my campaign here in Southeast Asia, we were covering the Assetera coverage of the backed tokens, or excuse me, the Particula coverage of the backed tokens. And so I think that what they're doing, Particula, that is, in creating reporting and doing diligence on these deals is so important. And it really helps out the issuer. It really helps out companies like ours as we're trying to cover these things by providing the information in a clear and concise way, and it provides legitimacy to the space. And Assetera has been active in this market for quite some time, so it's good to see that they're working with a company to help them on reporting, help them on transparency. That's I think going to be the core of really creating solid products that people have trust in. So this particular Assetera relationship and partnership, I think, makes a ton of sense for both sides. And if you're in this industry, couldn't highly recommend working closer with Particula on reporting, because I think that what they're doing is just so important.
Totally agree with that. They're a fantastic partner. And also, I think this whole, transaction, just in general, what we've been talking about on the show for a couple months now, highlights Europe and the feeling in the air of like they're about to turn on big, right? Like everything, the regulatory is slowly but surely coming together. It's not perfect by any means, but the regulators certainly seem to be supportive, trying to figure it out. And you've got a lot of now licensed marketplaces like Assetera and others all around Europe that are opening up and starting to do listings. And so I think we see a full ecosystem now alive and well out there. It's going to be great to track, Kyle, and see the growth of the European segment with this new sort of set of players ready to make it happen. So that's it. That's the token debrief. Kyle, anything to end on before we have to go and pick one of the amazing companies on the show today for our companies of the week?
It feels good to be back. And unfortunately, I won't be here next week, but the week following, hopefully you can count me in to be back on the regular programming.
Well, then let's head on over to the companies of the week.
Herwig, this is my favorite part of the show. It's always been. It's good vibes. It's exciting. It's, in a lot of cases, the main, largest, most exciting thing that may ever happen in the security token industry for this week and this week alone. That is the companies of the week. But it's not only just an award for the weekly winners that you and I choose, but it is a nomination for Company of the Year. This is a pretty prestigious award. We've got some big heavy hitters that win it every year. And look, we've had people come to us begging, please choose us, please select us. And we say, the only way you can be nominated is by winning the Company of the Week, which is one of two companies. Herwig, you and I both choose one that we're making the biggest or most highlight-worthy moves in the industry. And so with that, I just can't wait. It's been 7 weeks for me, Herwig. I need to know, who is your Company of the Week for episode 252?
Kyle, there were so many good updates this week. It makes it really hard, honestly. This is not something that's super easy. At least it was easier back in the day when there was less news to have to comb through. But Securitize was involved with like 3 different transactions this week. They're about to get $1 billion. You got T0 getting their SPBD license, which is really cool news. You got all kinds of new players coming to market and new offerings. But you know what? I got to give it to Northern Trust because I'm excited about what they're doing with their new tokenized carbon credits platform. I think there is huge potential for this category of carbon credits in general. As we were discussing on the show, the need for confidence and trust, which is in their name, of regarding custody and retirement and management of carbon credits, as well as, of course, their exchange, which is another great application of blockchain. It's not just another asset to put on chain, but there are a lot of additional benefits that blockchain brings to the carbon credit asset class specifically. And I believe Northern Trust is all over it, which is why they're my company of the week for their new Zenith launch, Matrix Zenith. And they did it with 2 clients already, Kyle. This is not just another fluff announcement. The platform is live, open for business. If you're looking to do some carbon credit projects and sell to some institutions, you better go apply and check them out. So Northern Trust, congratulations. You're my company of the week.
Congratulations to Northern Trust. Great winner, great product. And hopefully that will be a big catalyst for the carbon credit market. I think that's one that everybody's really excited about and hasn't quite found its flow yet. I think Northern Trust, if anyone, is going to be the one to bring that to market.
I think so. But Kyle, you've been off the show now for basically almost 2 months. Many weeks have gone by where I've only been able to pick one winner. So that really sucks for a lot of the potential entrants that might have
limits the pool.
Been on the show. It does limit the pool, slightly less selection. Good for everybody else that's already been a winner. But not great for those that might have won. And there was 1 week that I think I chose two just because they were working together on what they were doing. So it was easy to give it to both of them. But Kyle, now you're back and everybody's excited because we got a second nomination. So who do you have as your company of the week for this week?
Man, it does feel good to be back. It does feel good to have the power to name, to make or break the week for one amazing company. In fact, I really think that over these last 2 months, I've been dreaming about my company of the week choices each week, even though I haven't been able to represent them on the show. That doesn't mean that they weren't represented in my heart. 2 months away. This is the longest that I've been away from the show since we started back in 2019. And I couldn't feel better kicking off my return triumphantly to the show with OpenEden, who has announced their new fundraise. They just got a big check from Binance Labs, which is exciting. They have built a full treasury fund structure with their T-bill token that we covered on the show, was actually the first tokenized T-bill to get an A rating from Moody's, which I think is pretty cool. And it is the largest tokenized T-bill offering outside of the US, which is cool because I've actually been able to hang out with some of the guys from the team over the last couple of weeks, and I've been really impressed with their product, really impressed with the intentions that they bring to this solution. And so I didn't know anything about this fundraise, and I'm just very impressed. It's well deserved. And so for that reason, they're now over 100 million in total value locked in their T-bill product. And that's without any, huge institutional name that's essentially seeding it or funding it. They've done that all by themselves. So that's a major win for them. So for those reasons, OpenEden is my company of the week.
A leading name in RWAs and DeFi. I think it's a great choice, Kyle. OpenEden is doing some amazing stuff. They deserve that win. I think it's a great selection. And so great to have you back, man. Amazing stuff. We're going to miss you next week for Token Singapore, Token 2049 in Singapore. But, then hopefully you will not only be back on the show, but hopefully back in Miami.
Yes.
We shall see. In the meantime, of course, everybody, you're going to have to wait for that. And of course, you can go to stm.co in the meantime. We've got all your latest trading data, all your latest news and information that you're looking for. The market is huge, folks. There are a lot of different reports out there about the market size. They're mostly all wrong if they're not as big as ours, because we cover the whole market. There's billions and billions of dollars of products out there. We've got it all for you. You've got an amazing report that just came out doing, of course, August in terms of activity in the market. So go check that out. And of course, go give us a like, subscribe, make sure you share the show, because this is hard work we do every week putting this out here, right? So we would really love your support.
Herwig, I do want to give one shout out, because the last thing that I did before I left for the show was say, anyone listening that messaged me happy tokenizing,
that's right,
won a copy of the book. And I wanted to shout out Meshy Dolphin from the Polymesh community, who's been a loyal supporter of a lot of what we've been doing for a long time, was in fact the first person to message me happy tokenizing. I wanted to give them a shout out here on the show. Look out in the mail for a signed copy of our book. Me and Herwig both gave it our John Hancocks there. Unfortunately, it didn't get out before my trip. I thought it would arrive in a couple of weeks when I returned, but you will get it upon my triumphant return to Miami in just about a week or so. And so major shout out to Meshy Dolphin for supporting the show. And I think that's all for me, Herwig.
Smart moves there. Quick on the trigger. I believe it was a rather quick response as soon as we went live from Meshy Dolphin. So congratulations. We will have that book on our way, and maybe we'll do another one soon. But for now, you're just going to have to sit back. And of course, in the meantime, happy tokenizing.